Welcome to this week's episode of In-Depth Outdoors. Each week, the In-Depth Outdoors staff will take you to North America's top ice fishing destination, where we'll fish longer, go further off the beaten path, uncover untapped fisheries in your backyard, and punch more holes in search of the biggest fish and the hottest bites. We'll share time-proven tips, introduce new lures and cutting-edge fish-catching techniques. We'll shine the spotlight on overlooked bodies of water and open eyes to underutilized species that feed aggressively and fight hard under the ice. All this with one goal in mind, to help you catch more fish and have more fun doing it. This is In-Depth Outdoors, brought to you by Lake Master, leading in accuracy, following with success. Markham high-power ice sonar. Snowsuit Performance Winterwear, engineered with you in mind. Otter Outdoors, get out onto the ice and into the outdoors. Custom jigs and spins, the hottest baits below the ice. Strike Master Ice Augers, introducing the Solo, the ultimate ice auger. Thorn Brothers, makers of premium quality custom rods for the ice angler.
On today's episode of In-Depth Outdoors, we head to central Minnesota for late winter bluegill. What makes this show unique and what keeps it from being just another bluegill show is how we came to find out about this bite. Neither my fishing partner or I have any first-hand knowledge on this body of water. And to be honest, prior to a couple of days ago, we'd never even heard of this lake. What's given us the confidence to take this leap of faith and make this trip is my fishing partner for the day, Joel Nelson, is an absolute wizard at uncovering lightly pressured bodies of water using two primary research tools. The first one is Lake Master's Contour Pro software. This software allows an angler to access Lake Master's lake data on their home computer. The second is the DNR survey data for Minnesota lakes and rivers, available online to all anglers. So stick around. Joel will take us through the process of how he uses Lake Master's Contour Pro software to find new bodies of water, and with a little luck, we'll put a bunch of big bluegills on the ice. We pulled into this spot. It's a really heavily pressured spot. We've got about 6 people to the left of us. We've got 2 groups over here, maybe 3, 4 people in that group. And what we're finding is this lake, which contains some real high quality panfish, mostly bluegills. They're so heavily pressured, they're not behaving like bluegills in most bodies of water. So we dropped the camera down to kind of see what the bottom content was and if we could get an idea how many fish were in the area. And as that camera head first dropped down, what we saw were all these fish right below the ice, 4 to 5 feet below the ice versus in that bottom part of the water column. The people around us are reporting a very slow bite today, and the reason is they're fishing under the active biters. A lot of people will use these cameras to watch their jig as they fish, but in this instance, the camera was a fantastic tool because it helped to identify where those fish were in the water column.
Got a lot of aggressive fish in the area too. They're when they come through, it's almost immediate. Most times they're not coming in below your actual target on the Markham. They're coming in right at the same angle, so you'll see your jig actually grow in size. You know, a lot of times guys use a real aggressive jigging motion, and I do too, especially on the front end when you're trying to attract a fish into your section of the water column. Oh, there's a fish. Ooh, that's a bass. I gotta clear that deucer. One thing bass do a lot underneath the ice is they run sideways, and so if you have any camera cables down, if you've got a buddy fishing nearby, have them clear lines if you can. They really like to run horizontally, and you'll hear your line popping on the sides of the ice. This is a really good fish, guys. Wow. This is a big fish, James.
A lot bigger than mine. I was just listening to Joel tell everybody what was kind of going on with these bass, and you know, we got so many bluegills in this area, and when your LX5 just goes blank, typically it's because one of these just came through to chase off those bluegills. Now we've got the right gear. We can handle these fish relatively easily. We've got enough backbone in these rods to get those hooks home and land the fish. But these are out of season. We're not targeting them. And they sure do like those little gill pills. Now, want to take a second just to kind of point out the importance of those bass. If you don't have quality bass, you won't have quality bluegill. It's the presence of those large predators that keep the numbers of small bluegill down, and that's important because if you have a lot of small bluegill, you don't get any big ones. There's not enough food to go around. So if you care for and appreciate a good bluegill bite, don't keep those bass. That will ensure the health of your fishery.
Yeah, hopefully now with those bass gone, we can get back to bluegill fishing.
Well, if we have to catch them a couple more times, we'll wear them out and send them on their way. There we go. What we're using right now, that's a little slender spoon from Custom Jigs and Spins. And you're probably thinking to yourself, who uses a spoon for bluegills? Well, this time of year, once that season closes for those game fish, water temperatures warm up, these fish come shallow. There's often so many fish in one area, you'll get a large mix of fish of various sizes too. And what that little spoon does, it's a 1/16 ounce slender spoon from Custom Jigs and Spins, is it kind of selects the larger fish in the school. It does a little bit to deter those real small 5, 6, 7-inch gills that we'd rather not catch and helps target those larger fish. It's a very small, very lightweight spoon, and of course when a bluegill gets to that 8, 9, 10-inch class, he's eating a lot more than just the smallest bugs in the lake. He's able to eat some small bait fish. So that item right there serves two purposes, and it does a great job of putting some real nice fish on the ice.
As we're fishing this morning bite, notice we've got a lot of cloud cover. It's been a pretty good day so far. Low light conditions, fish have been feeding real actively into the morning. There's one. Looks like the clouds are going to break here. I might have to perform a slight change in tactics here if the sun comes out. I'm guessing the fish will push out just a little bit deeper, and we've got actually already holes drilled just in case. Oh wow, just a thick fish this one is. And lively as I'll get out. Probably has a little bit to do with how aggressive they're being. And that one hit on absolutely no bait. I didn't know it, but I think that shows just a little bit to how aggressive they've been. One of the things I like about these gill pills is the quality hooks that are used on them. They're fine enough hooks in terms of size that I can hook a spike, I can thread it lengthwise up onto the hook and not pop all of that natural juice inside of that spike. And that's been really important in teasing some of these fish that are getting more finicky as we're picking through these schools of more aggressive fish. We've got to, make our way through the ones that aren't as willing to bite too. So this is a little trick that's allowed us to catch more fish here today. Oh, wow. Great fish.
Is that a gill? Yeah. That isn't even a big one.
Yeah, he's not even a big one. He's only 9 plus. It's a great day when your average fish goes about 9 inches, and you can't complain when you're getting plenty of them that are even bigger than this. So,
if this is a gill, this is a nice gill. Yeah, there you go. Actually, it's a lot smaller than I thought. They're getting just feisty. This morning we had a great run of fish on those slender spoons. And as you can see now, we've got the sun breaking through the clouds, and that slender spoon bite all but stopped. We had about 15 minutes as the sun was starting to peek through where that bite that had been so reliable really started to fall off. So what we did is we made a real quick and simple change over to small jigs. And for me, when I'm looking to tempt a real lethargic or neutral bluegill, I put on a gill pill. That's my prescription bluegill right there. And what we're seeing now is the fish are real aggressive again, and they're willing to take those jigs. They're going to snub that slender spoon now that the light levels are real high, but that gill pill, that'll get the job done.
I can't stress enough that weeds have just been key to this bite. If we're 5, 6, 7 feet away from weeds, we're too far away, especially midday with the sun very high. Just over the, oh, there he took it. Yeah, it's pretty paramount to the success for today. There's another great fish. If we're getting cold, if we start to lose the bite, we just go right back to the same weed beds that we've been fishing all along, and lo and behold, they're full of fish all over again. It's a great fish. We're going to let it go.
I got one too, Joel.
Nice.
It's got some shoulders to him.
When it rains, it pours, huh?
Yeah, it does. Conditions could not be any better. There we go. We worked in tandem, and because these weeds are running in such a narrow ribbon, right at 8.5 foot of water, with, I mean, literally, you move 5 feet off that line right along the edge of the weeds, you're out of the weeds completely, and all you have is a hard packed sand bottom. And with all the bass and the northerns that are up in here middle of the day under this bright skies, chasing these bluegills, these fish have been kept very honest. They're real tight to those weeds, and they're not willing to move even just a couple of feet to take a bait. So we worked together. I got on the solo, and Joel came behind me with the transducer to guide me. We weren't going to cover a lot of distance, but we needed to make sure that those holes were punched right at the perfect depth. So our holes were really only spaced out about 3 to 5 feet, and that kept us right on that edge where all these fish are found. You know, there's always a couple of groups of anglers in an industry that are really on the leading edge when it comes to product development. And the rod I'm holding right now is a rod that's made by Thorne Brothers in Blaine, Minnesota. And what they come out with is some of the very best products available for the ice angler. This one here is a quiver stick. And the reason they gave it that name is it's got that perfect tip action to just quiver that jig, which is always so productive for panfish. But what makes this rod so unique is that you're seeing a fly reel mounted there at the working end of this rod and reel. And what that does is it does two things. The first one is just a tremendous drag. You think about how a fly reel is typically used. It's fished by trout fishermen, and they use very light tippet material to cushion those runs of hard-fighting trout. When we're fishing for panfish, we're using just sewing thread thin line, so that drag is just a huge benefit to us. You just saw me land that largemouth bass with absolutely no trouble whatsoever. And the second real advantage of that fly reel is there's no coiling of the line. Think of your spinning reel. As you drop line down your hole, that line comes off in that corkscrew spin. And you know, you look at the jigs we're fishing, they're so light, they never really pull that corkscrew completely out of the line. So you've got this great rod from Thorne Brothers, high quality components, it's unbelievably sensitive, and you combine it with a fly reel like this, no coil in the line, you feel everything. You feel that little inhale from a bluegill, you feel that jig set down on the bottom. It's just a fantastic combination. Here's one. Oh, it's one of those pumpkin seeds. These are just gorgeous little fish. You know, that one, he's a little bit short of the average size that we've been catching, but makes up for it in some great colors.
Not to mention, he's just as thick, James.
I know. Well, and you know, we'll talk about this a little bit. This lake caught our attention. Actually, Joel gets the credit for it because of some survey data that showed that there's not a lot of bluegills in this lake, but the ones that are in here are real nice size. And the reason that's important, and you can see it in this fish when you look at his belly, that means there's not a lot of small fish to outcompete the larger ones for food. And that's where a 7-inch bluegill gets a girth like that. Very healthy fish, that means there's plenty of food to go around. So we'll let that little guy go. Good guy.
Sorry for crowding you, James, but with the way that these weed beds have been laying out, I know it's pretty important to be close.
Well, there's always room for another guy, but you know, point well taken. 2, 3, 4, 5 feet one way or the other, and you're just out of the ball game. You know, when you take and watch the underwater camera, you can see all the bass, all the northerns that are keeping these fish just pressed tight right to these weed beds. You know, it's hard to find the weed bed, but once you do, it's easy to catch the fish.
Right, right.
They're not going anywhere. You know, midday, it's amazing how tight these fish are to this weed line. And of course, it's understandable. We're seeing so many bass on the camera. These fish are in here trying to feed, but they also need shelter from those predators. And where it's at, it runs over my left shoulder and basically just curves towards Joel. And if you're 2 feet outside that weed line, we're not catching fish. So we're literally right in the fish now.
Ooh. Speaking of fish, James, I've got a good one. Oh, he's in the camera. He's in the cable. Wow. Oh, man, let me get him untangled. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Oh, my Lord.
Think she'll make 10?
I think it's over 10, no doubt, no doubt. What a fish. These are great fish. Keeping a fish like this, to me, it's akin to keeping a 10 or 12 pound walleye for a lot of people. So this is a fish I definitely like to put back. And if I'm gonna keep a few, it'll be an 8-incher.
This is when it becomes a race here a little bit. You know, you catch fish, you have to rebait, and you look down at that markham, and you see those 3, 4 monster red blobs. You want to get it down there so quick, because typically it's game on as quick as you do. Come on now. Here it comes, here it comes. Here's that tip of the quiver stick. It's just so fine. This is one of the products, you know, I get to try a lot of different things. This one's fun, and it just makes sense. It works so well, and just produces. That's really what an angler's looking for. Just give me tools that work, do the job that I want them to do, and if possible, make my time out here on the ice just a little bit more fun. And that's more fun. Such fun. One after another. You know, and I bet you it's gonna hit 45 degrees today. Our biggest issue today is gonna be staying dry, not warm. I haven't once today thought about putting gloves on. There's no wind. You know, unfortunately for most anglers, they kind of give up on the ice fishing at the time of year when things get the best.
One of the keys to our success today was finding big bluegills in a body of water we've never been to before, and obviously that's a challenge to any angler, no matter who you are. But one of the things that I like to do in my spare time and as a hobby is to research these bites, particularly remote bites, via the computer using the LakeMaster Contour Pro software. And it's not just being able to see the contour information and find areas that look good to fish, it's about, with one click, being able to check out the DNR Lake Survey data and find out the size structure of the fish and whether or not there are quality panfish to be had in this lake to begin with. So when I see a survey that has 2, 3, 4, or 5 fish in that 9 to 11 inch category, I get extremely excited, because these are the true pounders, these are the 10-inch bluegills, these are the quality fish that a lot of ice anglers are trying to target. If you're like me and you take a lot of satisfaction and pride in finding numbers of fish and finding your own bite on lightly pressured bodies of water, and you don't have a lot of time to go out and hand scout each and every one of these, the LakeMaster Contour Pro is not only a great time-saving device, it's a major research tool that you can use to help put bigger fish on the ice.
You know, one of the things James was talking about a little bit is teasing these fish out of the school and getting the bigger fish to commit. It's actually a real process, and with these markhams we can actually discern the size of the fish a lot of times, especially in zoom mode, when we've got a bigger blip on the screen. I've been working this fish for a little while, and he has not been willing to commit. Oh, he's been on. Ooh, nice fish. Oh, don't tangle my deucer. Ooh.
Got a bass? Almost.
As if it were a bass. Oh, what a beautiful fish. Another nice fish. You know, today we're using the camera not just to help us find green weeds, which obviously has aided our pursuit of these fish, but we're also using it as a bite detection tool. As the bite gets, oh, there he is. As the bite gets tougher and the sun gets higher, these fish are mouthing the baits, they're getting close to it, they're bumping it, they're moving away, and using the camera to actually see when he inhales it and then double clutches onto that bait. That's just a key into setting the hook and bringing these gills to the surface. Well, what a thick fish. It's obvious that these fish are well fed, the system, and these weeds obviously are producing a lot of macroinvertebrates that they're eating on. And the biggest fish that we're catching aren't only 9-10 inches in length, but they're really thick fish as well.
Well, we've seen that on the underwater camera where these fish come in, they're not schooled like side to side. They're loose groups and they move down these weed edges. There we go.
Double.
A dubba. This is a good one. If this is a gill, this is a good gill.
Mine's only about 9 inches.
The quality of the fish that we've got here is just incredible. This might be a small bass. Hoo-hoo-hoo. For real light line like this, Joel, these fly reels might have the smoothest drag on a panfish rig I've ever used. And you think about the intended use. The intended use is for fishing, trout, real lightweight tippet material. So of course you're gonna have a great drag.
Along with a fish that's used to making real powerful, fast runs.
Right. Here's that built-in handle for the angler right there. And what's that, a bass about 8 or 10 today?
It's been nonstop.
I said it before, I gotta make the point again. Bass, they may be good eating, they might be something that you enjoy to eat, but it's real important if you're gonna keep bass on a lake like this, better keep those small ones. You don't wanna be cleaning the 3, 4, 5 pounders because that's the fish that keeps the bluegill populations in check.
Oh yeah. Ooh. Blow the ice here. Oh, he came off.
Did you get a good one?
Yeah, and I had him just by the skin of the mouth.
Well, those hooks on those gill pills, the smaller sizes aren't very big.
No, they're not, but it definitely did the trick for this fish. Just a beautiful fish.
So what do you think? End the day on that fish right there?
I think so. Pretty characteristic fish, pretty fitting that he be the last one, I guess, to go to the pile. And
well, I've got a pile pretty darn similar to yours, and what we've done today, we always try to keep in mind that we need to be stewards of the resource. So the bigger fish, we let those go. And what we've kept here, it looks like you've got 6 or 7. I think I've got 7 or 8 over there, all about the same size. That's going to be our dinner tonight. And all those bigger gills we caught earlier today, we let those go. And we really feel good about that. And we hope that when you get out, get a chance to experience some of this late ice panfish fishing, you do the same. And from Joel and I, we want to thank everybody for watching. We'll see you next week. I'm hungry. Let's go eat.
thanks, James.
You bet.